Alright, gang, it's getting real out there. This April Fool's Day, Wisconsin will be holding an election, and it's the world's most expensive unelected official, asshole, is rubbing all up on it. Elon Musk has resorted to bribery in order to buy your vote. Here's him admitting to it, even bragging about it. Not the smallest amount of shame. He's backing Wisconsin Supreme Court candidate Brad Schimmel, and the activist judge in question is his opponent, Susan Crawford. You know that episode of Naruto with the money jitsu kid?
Ninja art! Come and help me! Naruto! What's going on? What are you guys doing down there?
Serve him right if I just left him all here to drown.
Even Naruto is smarter than him. You know how dumb you have to be dumber than Naruto at that point in the story? Wisconsin, you are fucking drowning, Datebayo. Follow that trail of candy, though. Bribery. Bribery. And you know, there's a non-zero chance of all this is to make up for bankrolling an ad where he attacked the wrong Susan Crawford. Musk's organization, Building America's Future, that is used by Musk to funnel funds into supporting his favorite toys, had ran a social media campaign that featured a Harvard Law School professor, Susan P. Crawford, rather than the Dane County judge, Susan M. Crawford. This is literally the Wikipedia page photo for Susan P. Crawford. And this is Susan M. Crawford. Notice the cheekbones? Also, keep note of that talking point. We'll circle back to it. It's one of their basically only two talking points. Let's discuss the other thing to keep harping on. Her supporters. Namely, the one they don't like is George Soros. Billionaire philanthropist. Here's a clip from the space Elon and Brad hosted last week, where they came together to talk at tens of thousands of hypocritical, MAGA-brained idiots.
This is why she's hauling in unbelievable amounts of national money from the likes of George Soros. She got caught with her hand in the cookie jar.
Even more outrageous is you have all these radical left billionaire donors.
There's the words coming out of his mouth while he's sitting next to the world's richest man. You know, put two and two together, you gullible fools. George Soros is a rabbit hole, I tell you. Here's the quick version. He survived Nazi Germany. How? His rich parents bribed government officials. He joined his fake father, who was hiding his identity on rounds to steal from Jewish families. Here's a 3-minute clip from a 60 Minutes episode that every Republican knows by heart. What he says is interpreted to sound like he has no remorse, but all he really said was that he was 14 years old and probably didn't understand it well, but knows that if he wasn't there, someone else would have been. He was put on the Judenrat, a council of Jews in every ghetto that Jews were put into that had no real power of autonomy. They were just there so that Jewish people could take orders from other subjugated Jewish people. Even then, when given a list of people to round up, he refused to participate. Also, in that 60 Minutes episode, he said that it was a learning experience, specifically about seeing things happening before they happen and planning for it. So he spent the rest of his life making business and economic moves that someone else would have made if he didn't, and used the money he earned to advocate for an open society, in which the only clear definitions of an open society that he can figure out so far is 1. It can be communist, socialist, or capitalist, or anything else. 2. Is the opposite of a society closed to outsider new ideas. And 3. It is different for every country. At first, he tried to prevent totalitarian and fascist governments from reappearing. He learned real quick that an unstable financial system also creates a, quote, closed society. So he went into advocating for the kind of laws that would prevent him from making the money moves that he makes, while continuing to make those moves so he could afford to keep advocating for those changes. He accidentally destroyed a few economies, basically because he noticed them failing, and then pulled out early, causing people watching his actions to rug pull alongside him. Here's some things Republicans love to say about him. He's wanted in Russia. Myth busted. He's part of Hitler's SS. Myth busted. He led Jews to their death. Myth busted. Fox accused him of single-handedly running the shadow government. This one did happen. Him actually running the shadow government? Myth busted. Of course you don't. Hungary was legislating what they refer to as anti-Soros laws. Why? The ruling class was attempting to tighten media influence to hurt their opponent. Every time a government starts to lean too far to the right, George Soros appears to spend money to pull it back to the left. Why is no one doing this when a government goes too far left? That's because corporate greed and lobbying have a way of pulling to the right naturally. Every time this cycle repeats, a slew of misinformative propaganda spawns around him. Does he fuck up? Yes. That's a video for another day. Right now we're here to protect Wisconsin and the country. And George Soros is the boogeyman that Republicans don't want dipping into their politics, because he's effective in opposing them. George Soros sees the same dominoes lining up that Elon sees right now. If Susan Crawford wins the Wisconsin election, not only would that mean Elon finally found something he couldn't obtain with money, and his ketamine-fried brain will be so utterly confused by the concept of being a human being, but also that she could redistrict Wisconsin to get more Democratic representatives into the House. Though Susan claims that is not on her to-do list. We could talk about Brad's to-do list, though. Reenact Act 10, a right-to-work law that made collective bargaining difficult or impossible, especially in public sector teaching jobs. Since the passing of Act 10 in the law, school systems saw their selection of job applicants significantly reduce, as less people were eager to enter education jobs so completely underrepresented. It has been proposed to be overturned this year, and whoever gets the seat will be able to guide the final decision. Brad wants to keep the Act 10 law. Ponder this. What will happen to the quality of education there if they are forced to pick from fewer and fewer good candidates? Brad also wants to stand firm that abortions should be illegal. Imagine a Wisconsin full of more kids than its people can handle being taught by less and less competent teachers. Hell, it will be a fully red state within the next generation if that keeps up. Sick burn. Finally, circling back to the child predator she let free. There are several notes that probably won't change your opinion on this, but are worth making. The $500 bond they accuse her of giving him leaves out that it is $500 for every missed court date, encouraging him to show up. He was and is being psychologically examined to determine if he is mentally fit to stand trial, and it is in contention still. He's getting 4 years in prison and an additional 6 years of supervision. He still has to be on the sex offender registry, and she's now hesitant to make any final decision about it at all. As his case has turned political, and if she makes a decision either direction, she's worried it will look politically biased by recent events. Brad slacked on sending a backlog of rape kits during his term from 2015 to 2019, in which in 2017 he assured the public he was sending up hundreds with the help of a $10 million federal grant to help tackle the issue. Reports say, in reality, it was only 9 out of over 6,000 kits. Suddenly, in late 2018, around when he needed to start campaigning for re-election, did the backlog suddenly start getting tackled. During that gap, he had given police, quote, no pressure to find their untested rape kits. So, she at least did something about the rapist, and kept it unpolitical, unlike her opponent that leveraged a 5-year backlog while victims were told to wait and rapists walk free to campaign for election. He also gave a couple domestic abusers just a year of probation and no jail time, if we want to start slinging fake mud about each of their light sentencings. I mean, he actually did do that. But maybe he just got the vibes that they didn't deserve jail time. If I were a Republican politician that liked to make evangelical claims about a political opponent, I'd be screaming to the heavens that Brad Schimmel only sees women as an object to leverage for his political campaigns. There's actually proof of that. His disrespectful views towards women, that is. He had claimed here that a woman-majority Supreme Court would be, quote, too emotional to be fair. Also, he recommended no jail time for Dustin Yoss because his victims, quote, had bad judgment. Or Waukesha County case number 2007 CF23, when he disappointed the victim of a rape by giving her abuser a plea deal because Brad decided she was, quote, too fragile emotionally to handle appearing in court. Or when he recommended a Sean Capecus serve no jail time because his rape was, quote, basically a first date. Are you kidding me? So Susan Crawford gives a mentally handicapped rapist 4 years with access to rehabilitative services, by the way. Even though that is a super low ball, that's at least better than the nothing that Brad delivers. And I could go on, except I really can't, but I left the starters for your own rabbit hole to go down in the description. Thank you.
Yeah, this is super important, and we got to hustle. If you look at the early voting data so far, the Democrats winning, which is not good. So we're going to go all out.